So I want to say welcome everybody to the industry panel, and Hubert Lim is going to be the session chair. Thank you so much, Hubert, for putting these questions together and whipping these industry people into shape so that we have a great session. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tay. You did an awesome job. Great job today.
Thank you.
Not easy doing this all virtually, I could imagine. So welcome everyone. We have an excellent panel discussion today with awesome panelists. I'll have them introduce themselves in a bit here. The title we have is Training Students and Academics to Succeed in the Neuromodulation Industry. A little bit of background just to set the stage is, we've done this conference, I think eight times already. And every year we spend quite a bit of time with industry panel discussing, the future of medical devices, neuromodulation. How do we, improve treatments for patients, and how do we build academic industry partnerships? And I always felt that, the steering committee felt that, we've always been a bit light on the training part. And there's a lot of young, excited and forward-thinking researchers, students, even faculty who, we want to better equip the skills and knowledge base to be integrated into industry. And it doesn't have to be early stage, it could be later stage as well. So we thought that we'd do a session discussion on, how can we train better students and even faculty and academics in that direction. So that's kind of one of the key topics we want to discuss today. And whatever, from the industry side, they can provide feedback on, what that looks like and some of the gaps and challenges they've seen that we could better do on our academic side as well. And then the other part, which, there was a nice breakfast discussion this morning already touching upon diversity and inclusivity in the workplace. And, of course, this past year has been quite challenging. The pandemic, also the recent events, and as close to us here in Minnesota with the George Floyd situation and unfortunate recent events. But I think it's brought to more full attention, what we need to do within not only academia, but of course in other sectors for this panel industry to try to push more, to make it more of a reality. How do we improve and enhance diversity and inclusivity in the workplace? And the last bit I just want to bring up that I would like to touch upon as well in this discussion is that, because of the COVID pandemic, I think it has really made it more real for us to think about, tele everything, right? Teleworking, telefitting, remote device fittings. I think this is going to change, some of the structure of how companies are moving forward with the workplace. And even the skills we need for the new types of roles and jobs that are going to occur. So with that in mind, just to set the stage, I'm going to present two questions to the panelists, and then after we'll open it up for the audience to ask their questions. But before we begin, we'll have the panelists introduce themselves, about a minute or so. We'll go in alphabetical order, and then the questions, I'll switch it up and go reverse alphabetical order, and then make it fair. So Riki, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure. My name is Riki Banjaree. I'm a senior engineering director for Medtronic Neuromodulation. I lead our systems organization. I've been with Medtronic for 12 years. I was with 3M before that, and I'm a University of Minnesota alumni. Got my PhD in electrical engineering from University of Minnesota.
And I think Mark, if I got it right, the alphabetical order by last name.
My name is Mark Hjelle. I've been at this for about 33 years. I was at Medtronic for 23 years, mostly in the CRM leads business and the TACI business in various roles. And then I went to St. Jude Medical. So I forever will always call it St. Jude versus Abbott. My apologies to anybody else. And was in the EP business in Minnetonka for 3 years, and I've been Heraeus Medical Components now for 7 years. And my role is now as a Director of Technology Development for our business. I'm a University of Minnesota grad, BS in Chemistry and Chemical Engineering.
Thank you, Mark. Next in line, if I got it right, Roshini.
Yes, hi there, everyone. Thank you for letting me participate in this panel. My name is Roshini Jain. I'm with Boston Scientific Neuromodulation. I'm one of the senior directors in clinical research, responsible for the clinical sciences and the scientific communications piece, managing all the clinical studies we do globally in neuromodulation here. I've been with the company for about 15 years now. Actually an alum from University of Michigan, did my biomedical engineering in master. So that's, I'm sure, Hugh, you're smiling. We go back a few ways, but again, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here today.
Roshini, I'm just realizing, oh, geez. Okay, I didn't put all the pieces together. Nice to see you again.
Same here. It's been a while. Nice to see you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is great.
Hubert probably had more hair last time you saw him. There, it's just the running.
I'm growing it out. Abeer, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name is Abeer Khurram. I'm a biomedical engineer by training. I also graduated from the University of Michigan with my master's in biomedical engineering in 2015. And currently I work at Saluda Medical, which is a small company using evo compound action potentials to advance closed loop spinal cord stimulation. I joined Saluda about 4 years ago as part of the clinical team, right when they were starting a clinical study in the US. And this gave me the opportunity to look at the vast amounts of patient usage and neurophysiological data that we were collecting. And I just became more and more interested in it and wanted to dig more into it. So more recently, I've become part of the data analytics group at Saluda, and I'm a data analyst. So thank you for having me on the panel, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
And just to remind everybody, Lawrence Pore's talk was using Saluda's technology.
Yes, that's right.
Cool. Oh, awesome. Great. Thank you. Next in line, Quan.
I just want to remind my panelists that we're in front of probably largely University of Minnesota audience here. And so I'm Vice President of Research in Inspire Medical Systems, actually a local Minnesota company for a implantable neuromodulation device for obstructive sleep apnea. I grew up in China, came to here for my graduate education, went to University of Utah for my PhD in biomedical engineering, studied cardiac electrophysiology, which led me to Guidant, Boston Scientific, worked on pacemaker, ICDs, and cardiac resynchronization therapy. And then I joined Inspire in 2008. I think I'm the first scientist on the team. And I've been there in the last 14 years and then got FDA approval in 2018. And then this is kind of one of the emerging neuromodulation therapy in the space. Glad to be with you today.
Thank you, Quan. And Erika.
Thanks, Hubert. I'm Erika Ross. I'm the Director of Applied Research at Abbott Neuromodulation. Mark, I joined Abbott, not St. Jude Medical, so I will I will refer to it as thus. But so I joined Abbott about 1.5 years ago, maybe a little bit more. Prior to that, I was with a startup company that came out of the Stanford Biodesign program called Cala Health, which is another neuromodulation company. And before that, I was at the Mayo Clinic, and I split my time between a bunch of DARPA work as an assistant professor in neurosurgery, and I spent time in the general surgery department as well, trying to pull out ideas from the surgery department and extended areas to really do rapid prototypes of different folks' ideas to bring to market in different ways, shape, and form. So I spent my PhD, I did my PhD at Mayo Clinic as well, and love this conference. I've been to it. I don't want to admit how long ago I started going to this conference, but it's fun to join back now as a panelist.
Thank you, Erika. So let's dive into it. First question, and I'm just going to rephrase it. So academics, and including myself as a faculty member, we do our best to train students and researchers, trainees, especially those who want to go out into industry. I admit I've worked together with companies, but I don't always know what companies need, and it sometimes can be a bit, mystifying as to what are the skills and development, training pathways that we need to create in the university. And I think although we've done a good job, including at Minnesota with the companies here, in trying to create that pathway, I still think there's some gaps. And, part of it is just not understanding both sides as much as we could. And of course, with the COVID pandemic happening, and there's different shifts in the way the companies are going, the question is, what are the gaps and challenges that you're seeing with, trainees coming out of programs like biomedical engineering, electrical engineering, in undergrad and graduate level? And what are some directions that we can move towards to kind of build that, to close that gap, to improve that training pathway into industry for many who are in this panel session that are listening. So maybe Erika, since we went forward alphabetical, now we'll go backwards, not to put you on the spot, but we'll go, maybe you could start off, Erika.
Sure. Thanks, Hubert. So I would say, the biggest thing for us is always identification of unmet patient need. And everything we do starts there. We really, I think there's so much opportunity for folks who spend their time in academic centers to spend time learning and seeking education from different folks who are delivering patient care from day to day, and really trying to say, look, this seems like it could be something that we could turn into a real idea and turn into something that would eventually be accessible by larger patient populations. But focusing time there is so important. I think you guys do a great job. I've seen it's fun to start getting some visibility to the work that's going on at the U, to see that kind of those initiatives growing and really saying, look, you can do research for the sake of research, but research for the sake of actually moving the needle and getting us to where we need to be going in the neuromodulation space is kind of critical. I would say that piece, and then also just the time that it takes to develop and the understanding of milestone-based research. We do milestone-based research, and we need to know answers for just massive questions yesterday at any given moment. People are like, well, can help me de-risk this idea or this product decision. Like, well, we need data to do that. So having that ethos built into the work that you guys do every day, I think I love DARPA because of that, the milestone-based work. I think NIH is doing a really good job now building that in as well, and industry collaborations. I think we all look to research that really helps us get to these points where we understand more and can make pretty big decisions off of that. So I think as trainees, the more we think about truly what are you innovating to solve, and is that truly an unmet patient need, and how fast can you get there? Those are really the areas where as a trainee, I wish I had that guiding light when I was getting my PhD and prior.
Thank you, Erika. And you're right. We actually don't integrate that kind of training structure. People in labs that do have these milestone or DARPA projects are getting exposed to it, maybe getting a negative feeling for it because it's so intense all the time. But you're right. We don't actually incorporate that kind of training infrastructure into our traditional courses. So, or at least not as much as we could. So thank you. Quan, your thoughts?
Yeah, maybe I can just build on what Erika said. There's a lot of really good elements there. On the clinical needs aspect. So this is maybe more speaking from personal experience, right? I've been a professional student for a long time during my PhD. I have to admit that I probably read more articles about the heart than the patient actually with heart disease and doctors treating heart. But that's something that I really draw a contrast as well as in my last 20 years actually working in the industry. So that to me, it really is the contrast of being a domain expert in a particular area that I think actually our training model is really good in really kind of producing scientists, experts that knows a lot of things about the subject. But when it's coming to understanding the clinical issues, as Erika mentioned, I think that to me, nothing can be replaced by talking to patients and also working with doctors directly. This is Hubert also, as you mentioned, right? So we are dealing with pandemic. One of the things I think really missed during the pandemic is that direct interaction exchange with doctors. And I think you pretty much reminded us that as soon as the pandemic's over, we really hope to get back to that as soon as we can, right? Not only in the industry, but also really encourage students, as you're working for your next paper, get the doctors involved, right? So can hear directly from their perspective, their input. I think that's a great opportunity we have.
And Quan, I'm going to come back to that a little bit later too, because I would like to talk more. How could industry and academia work together to create more of those real hands-on experiences together, right? That's relevant for the training. I think there could be some really amazing things built up on that. So thank you for that insight. Abeer, if you want to give your thoughts.
Yeah, I just agree with everything that's been said so far. I think what Erika was saying about business sense is really important for people coming out of academia to understand, because when you're working in an industry, you have to drive some kind of value to the company. So that's really important. And I believe in this day and age, like really knowing your value and knowing how to market yourself is becoming even more and more important. So, and being able to do that over a Zoom meeting, that's really key. And then I think one other thing is that I feel like I lacked through my studies is knowing how to be an effective teacher and distilling very complex concepts into simple language for people in a respectful way. I think that's really important for academics as well. Like as grad students, I think most of them are just expected to teach without any proper training on how to be an effective teacher. So I view that as very important.
You just reminded me of we had a we're doing this lab tours for our staff members so they can learn what we do. And our first session, we totally lost them because we went in too much detail. And then I realized I had the aha moment. Oh my goodness, like we're not properly thinking in the way to make it simplified and training the next generation. And I was at fault too. So it's something that we do need to start to think more actively about, because it's becoming, even to get funding from grant funding mechanisms, you have to be able to say it in simpler terms because things are so more transdisciplinary now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for that. Mark, you're up.
I think Roshini's next. We want to go in pure order.
Roshini, yeah. Sorry, Roshini, yeah.
That's okay. I think, sometimes the beauty of coming in midstream is some of the points you want to capture have already been captured by other speakers. But I think in my opinion, if I had to say just three things, I probably would say getting as much industry experience, again, collaborations when you're in academia with industry partners. We're local. We hire from University of Minnesota. So it's a great place to hire people from. So again, looking at co-ops, internships, getting that industry experience, I think would be paramount. I couldn't disagree anymore. I think you got to get a few business classes going when you're in academia, because that's one thing that'll set you up for success in corporate as well. It's just that understanding that there are finite resources and there's only so much you can do with those finite resources, be it people or be it dollars. And then lastly, I think as Abeer and I think Hugh agreed as well, it's being to effectively communicate. In neuromodulation, especially with a lot of our devices, the patients that we're treating, they come from a gamut of different conditions. So being able to explain a complex device to a patient, and then of course on the other side, be able to convince your physicians, your investors on that as well. So effectively communicate, kind of forest between the trees, I think is very critical as well, in my opinion.
Very nicely said, Roshini. Now, Mark.
I would agree with everything that's said. I would put a little slant on it, though, that I think the importance of patient contact could start even at the bachelor level. If people are considering these degrees, instilling that culture of reliability and quality, to understand that, with all due respect to the shoemaker, we're not making shoes. And this is complicated stuff, and we need to understand that patient connection. Hopefully nobody here ever has to look at somebody and say, your device is recalled. That's a painful conversation to go through, right? but it's real. And I think having that patient contact, even like the patient symposium at the beginning, very beginning of the conference, having that as a bachelor's student would be very meaningful as you carried that all the way through. It's part of your cadence and your culture and your core. And then I think the other thing that would be helpful too is we've got a great, glorious history, but we've also have made some mistakes as an industry, and having people know what those mistakes were and know what could have been prevented, and to realize that we've got rules and requirements. The FDA is not the enemy. The rules and procedures we have are not the enemy. We have to follow them, and so that they have that code instilled in them, because a lot of times we have issues with the FDA because we just didn't follow a procedure, and that's really simple to do, but it's hard to do. And to have that culture and expectation of people that it's that important, learning through your mistakes, and having that confidence to have those conversations starting at the bachelor level would be important. And the industry could help facilitate that through seminars and different things. So.
Thank you, Mark. And hopefully there's no shoemakers out there. Riki, you're next.
Sure. I think I'm going to answer a little differently. Not to be the contrarian. So my experience is hiring across STEM disciplines from intern level all the way through PhD, postdoc, and experience level. I've led and hired mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, neuroscience, chemistry, material science, just many, many different disciplines. And I'm on a number of these panels, and often young people ask me, like, do you use the things you learn in school? And my team does physics. We do eigenvectors. We do Maxwell's equations. I learned about using EBSD and looking at crystalline structure on tiny bits of wire, so we could understand fatigue. And so, those core technical skills I can't teach. That is what I'm relying on academia to teach. And when I'm interviewing, and I've been doing at least 4 interviews a week for the last 6 months at all different levels. So it's been kind of a crazy, crazy ride here, even through COVID. I am looking for those core technical competencies. I am asking each one of them, how do you problem solve in a technical domain? Take me through your process, and I'm digging to understand if they really have those technical underpinnings. I feel like I can coach some of the business aspects. I can coach some of the communication aspects. I can coach the regulatory piece and how we do work at Medtronic. Those are big, big things that you learn. For me, I came in, 4 years post a PhD, no med device background, no biomedical engineering background, and I learned it all. And I'm senior director of a systems org. So, that was my experience and is my experience as a leader.
So Riki, I like where you took that, and I want to now kind of pose some questions to the group, a little bit off tangent here. I'd say departments like biomedical engineering and even other departments, they are trying to create a more diverse training. And they are having them do more kind of commercial things and courses and trying to add in some of these patient things that we talked about, not to the level of, as we've mentioned here. Have you noticed that, have we gone away too much that the technical skills are being diluted in our training? Because we're always, I'll be honest, in our department, we keep saying we need to add more diverse things in our training. And you're saying, more technical skills is critical. Are we starting to go too much in that direction? And have you noticed that dilution of technical skills? And I just wanted to bring that up to everyone here, your thoughts, if you want to comment, and maybe others openly.
Sure, I can start. Yeah, so I find undergrad BME can be challenging because it is a very diverse and broad degree program. So often if I'm hiring at an undergrad BME level, they've had experiences maybe through an internship or through university lab, like working for a professor, that gave them a little bit deeper technical skill that I'm looking for. It's very hard for me if someone comes in and they don't have any coding skill, any bench skill. It's hard for me to kind of grab on and bring them into the technical depth of what we talk about. And what are you going to do if someone's like feeling a lack of confidence talking about common mode rejection and Maxwell's equations? That can be a very difficult thing to overcome. So I do find at the graduate levels though, BME, I really like where it's gone. So 20 years ago, I looked at going into BME, I was interested, but I got the advice at that point, like, I don't know, people don't know what to do with a BME degree. I was at Medtronic, and Medtronic was telling me, we hire more electricals, we hire more mechanicals, we don't know what to do with BMEs. And I just feel like that has very much changed, and certainly, definitely, there's a lot of depth and more towards some of the things that the other panelists were talking about in terms of depth and clinical elements and patient experiences and that kind of connection.
But I will say too, I agree with what Riki was saying. But then if you look at more BME or bachelor level jobs, maybe manufacturing or product development or things like that, I can ask a question saying, can you model that for me? And when modeling first started, you'd put an I-beam in and you'd bend it for a weekend and you get a little result. Now someone could throw something into MathCAD, or they could throw it into something else, and then boom, you've got an answer. And now I've already eliminated 2 design iterations, and I already know how to make that coil or how to make. And so those tools are so readily available, and they're so fluent with those tools that it's very helpful when you interject somebody into an internship program, or you bring them in right out of school into product development or process development for your organization. They can fit in really well and give you very iterative, quick, accelerated value to the organization. So it really, I think, to what Riki's saying, what I hear is you also have to be smart enough to fit the right person and right skill sets into your organization. You bring in someone in bachelor's, like you said, they're doomed to fail, right? And that's not fair to them. It's not fair to the organization, right? So having that diversity of education helps with the diversity of needs that we have in industry.
Great, thank you. And I don't know if there's any other comments from the panelists. I was going to shift gears a little bit here, but there was a last word in.
I was just going to say, I like the shift towards experiential learning. And I think that I totally align. Like we need technical experts. Like you have to hit the ground running in the thing you're hired to do. But the shift in graduate, undergraduate programs toward doing that in a completely applied setting, I think is really positive. I've noticed it in the recent grads that I've hired from all over the place. So it's good.
Great, thank you, Erika. I know we only have 15 minutes here. It always goes by so quickly. And Tay, maybe in the future we do a 3-hour industry panel session because there's almost so much to talk about. It was already a great breakfast morning session where they talked a bit about diversity and inclusivity in the workplace. And I did want to hear from the panelists in your companies as well. What are the directions that they're moving towards to enhance this, and how can academia like us in at universities work with industry also to foster this, right, to make it happen. And even things like doing more internships or group seminars or outreach programs, even at a younger age, to reach high school, junior high, and elementary kids, right? I mean, so what can we do there? And I want to get your thoughts. And maybe just because we went in backwards, we'll go starting from maybe middle out now here. So Roshini, you get to, since I skipped you a little bit, and then you could start maybe.
Sure, absolutely. So at Boston Scientific here, I think, diversity and inclusion, I think is, I don't want to say it's a theme. It's kind of what runs within us. It's really how we approach almost everything that we have. It's a journey for us. I think we have very strong targets in mind when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And again, be it it could be anything, right? It could be women, it could be people of color, it could be anything. And we typically have always exceeded our targets when it comes to sort of meeting some of those as well. As I said, it's in our DNA. It's how we think, it's how we process. We have several employee resource groups, or ERGs as we call them. Again, they're very broad. I'm not going to get into the details of it today, but I will tell you, it's a very active piece that we have going. And again, we kind of shift, right? So of course, after George Floyd, I will tell you, and I had to look this up because I didn't know the number off the top myself, we held about 8,800 hours of listening sessions for the company. Next week, we have several listening sessions already scheduled in anticipation of what might happen. And again, it's a continuum as we see. So we did the Black Lives Matter, of course, when we focus a lot on Stop the Hate. Within our employee resource groups, we are spending a lot of time as well trying to kind of bring it all, let everyone communicate. We want people to come to the company as a whole. So bring your whole self to work, not just parts of it. And I think we're very open in that regard. To your comment, Hugh, with regard to how we will partner with some of the academia, we actually have several programs where we're looking to sort of pick up mentors or be mentors for folks students in universities, where we can talk about various types of careers that you can have within these companies, within ourselves for neuromodulation, and then broader as well. And of course, then it's ultimately their choice if it makes sense. But we're putting in place and have already done a lot of these mentorship programs as well, just to help with, again, bringing about a lot of diversity and inclusion when it comes to hiring and what it takes to be part of Boston Scientific.
Thank you, Roshini. That was very insightful. I appreciate the feedback, the thoughts on that. Abeer, you're next. Go and center out here.
Yeah, sure. So at Saluda Medical, we're a small company with few resources right now, and so we don't have, a dedicated DEI department or anything like that. But we are on a global scale, so I feel like we naturally are diverse, but we could always do better. And as we grow, there will be more opportunities for us to collaborate with academia for recruitment pipelines and things like that, which I think are really, really important. So from my own experience, one of the most important things that I learned in my undergrad and grad school was the senior design projects. I'm sure University of Minnesota has them too, is these year-long projects that were industry sponsored. And that's just a great way for industries to build a talent pipeline, and also for academia to provide an enriching experience for their students.
Great, thank you, Abeer. Quan, you're next in line there.
Yeah, thank you, Hubert, for actually really bringing this topic to the panel. Right? So my lens is really focused on the patient we serve. So when I was with Boston Scientific, we have the Close the Gap. Right? So this is very much focused on for heart disease. There's clearly disparities in serving underserved communities. And then in Inspire, really, so I think, the event last year really brings this a lot closer to us because physically it is so close, right? So there's a lot of emotional reactions. We actually all went to seminars, talk about health disparities. One thing that I think really I learned the most myself is be very intentional. So for example, for new breakthrough therapy, hypoglossal nerve stim for obstructive sleep apnea, when you look at the patient population we serve, currently only 5% are non-white, right? So this is through a registry that will actually enroll almost 20% all the patients receiving therapy. So being intentional, what we actually do internally is we went to the community, actually serving a large percent of African Americans, right? So this is clearly patient can benefit, but what is the issue there that a patient not getting to the doctors? And then there's also what's actually boils down in terms of delivering or access to therapies. I think being intentional really can help us understand what are the systemic issues underneath, the health disparity. Sometimes maybe as a manufacturer, we're limited with what we can do, but clearly it's very, very educational learning for us to be able to appreciate, understand, and then be able to really come up with solutions that we actually can make an impact.
Thank you, Quan. It's a good point from that perspective on the patient side, and how that also plays into this role of how we enhance diversity, inclusivity, and equity. Next in line here, Mark, if you want to give your thoughts.
Yeah, a really good talk from everybody. I think the one thing that struck home to us, I mean, we're a global company as well. We travel a lot and way too much probably, but we have a lot of close friends around the world. And while everything's been going on in Minneapolis and hitting home for us, there was a mass shooting in Hanau, Germany, which is where our headquarters is. And when you see it scroll on the ticker on the bottom, and then you see the little X on the map, and you realize you've walked past that place many times, and you know that you've got friends that are there, and you just realize how global and common a lot of these topics are. And you think you know a lot, and you think you've seen a lot, but it's amazing how becoming a student of life is just something that I think it can't be appreciated, I guess, as much. And it's been very enlightening to think of and have conversations with people during COVID, because you're starved for contact. You're starved for your relationships. So there's been a lot of Zoom meetings that end early where we've said, hey, can you talk for a little bit? And it's been amazing how many times you just have conversations just to talk through things, because there's just a lot going on. And yeah, there's a lot of despair, but I don't want to be naive, but it's also, I've had way more conversations in the last year than I probably had in the previous 30 years about things that maybe you didn't talk about in the past. And now you're talking about them, and it's refreshing. And I've learned so much and realized how much I didn't know. And so hopefully that helps in some element, and we can maybe move things forward collectively, because it's just not a US problem. It's not a Minneapolis problem. It's a global issue, which is obvious, I know, but it's just amazing how that hit home for me.
Very good points, Mark. I've had that same realization, just how much I've learned over this last year, just having so many more honest discussions about it, even with my wife and with close friends as well. Riki, you're next in line, and then Erika afterwards, and we'll open it up to the group.
Sure. So certainly Medtronic has a number of big initiatives. There's a big partnership with Thurgood Marshall, with historically Black colleges and universities. We recruit at Society of Women Engineers and NSBE. But maybe kind of talking about a few things I've been more personally involved with, it kind of tying it back to what I was saying. So in the domain that I'm in the leadership and talent that I look to develop in my organization, sometimes I feel kind of dissatisfied recruiting at these big venues where I'm looking for specialized kind of deep technical talent. So I guess through conversation with people, there was a close friend of mine, my PhD advisor, who kind of led me to the GEM Fellowship. So if you haven't seen that organization, I recommend that you check it out. And it's a 40-year organization focused on supporting underrepresented groups in STEM graduate school. And it's really been a really amazing journey. So in August, my boss supported me in joining the GEM Fellowship. And so, and then in November, I was involved in, they have us judge, and you're judging as industry academic partners. So you're looking at it from two lenses, and then you're supporting the student on two sides with internships as well as their academic career with an advisor. So through that process, then I chose two GEM students, and then I've been working directly with the BME departments in multiple universities to see if I can get them good projects that kind of match with where we're going in industry too. So there's been kind of a nice collaboration element with the universities as well. And then maybe one other thing I'll mention is Medtronic Medtronic is a sponsor, I believe, of WISE at University of Minnesota, as well as sponsored a diversity and inclusion person for the University of Minnesota PME faculty. So very much committed and focused on how do we partner in terms of talent development in this space so that both institutions can benefit.
Thank you, Riki. And Tay just texted me about this gem. I didn't know much about it, so thank you for sharing that. And we'll definitely look into that. It's something I didn't realize. Erika, do you want to?
I just want to add in here that I heard a statistic that I learned last night that the New York Times published that with COVID, the number of underrepresented minorities that have left STEM fields has pushed us back to 1988 in our progress of actually getting STEM people, so or underrepresented minorities in STEM. So this is a really important time to invest in programs like GEM.
Yeah. Tay, I hadn't seen that. That's actually really tragic to hear that we've lost so much footing. So I would say at Abbott, our goal is to make sure that the folks who are building our widgets reflect our patients who are receiving our widgets. So it's really, we have to have the right diversity built into our workforce so that we are innovating with all different perspectives in mind. And in the way that we hire, in the way that we invest in different initiatives, it's really focused in diversity and inclusion. I think there's been a lot of references to metrics, and I do think that there's some level of importance within different industry groups to make sure that people understand that it's important. But fundamentally, it's more about building the culture and making sure that you have the right people who are getting exposure, who are getting the visibility that they should be receiving because they are qualified individuals and should be part of the team. I think along those lines, we've got a lot of initiatives that we participate in different university settings and different academic institutions as well to really help drive diversity and inclusion and make sure that we're in the same way that we bring people in, we're making sure that our therapies are accessible to people who wouldn't necessarily have access to neuromodulation therapies. I think there's a big miss there right now in our field as well. So I think we have a lot of work to do as a industry in this space, and I think it's really important that we continue to listen to different perspectives and understand different perspectives and incorporate how we're innovating with the right people on the team and with the right people in mind.
Great, those are excellent thoughts and insight, Erika. And I wish we had more time. I wrote so many notes, and I was going to take this discussion. I have like 5 different pathways I want to take it. We didn't able to have questions, but it does show me that we need to do a larger session topic on these discussion topics. So that's to be determined, and we'll make sure we do that. Tay, we'll do like another kind of Center for Neuroengineering session. I do see Dr. Chris Cramer has joined us too, so I want to respect everyone's time. But I do thanks to the panelists really for being honest and insightful about these 2 topics we discussed. And with that, then I'll transfer it over. Maybe Tay, do you want to take over from here and then introduce?
Thank you, Hubert, for running this really great session, and all of our panelists. I really appreciate you guys, and I appreciate all the support you've given the conference over the years as well. So it's time to wrap up. I'm quite pleased with how the conference has gone, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. We're going to have a few words from Chris Cramer. I'll give, who's our Vice President of Research, and I will give a couple closing remarks, and then we will give out the poster awards. So please stay for the poster awards and congratulate the students who have done such a great job in the posters. So Chris, thank you for coming and giving a couple closing words.
Well, it's a real pleasure, Tay. Thank you. It's great to be here today at a symposium that highlights this incredibly important field. Actually, I think I had the chance to address you a little bit 2 years ago, and it's been 2 years, I gather, because something happened last year. That,
don't know what that was.
I am Chris Cramer. I'm the Vice President for Research at the University of Minnesota. I'm a chemist by training and have been in the College of Science and Engineering, where biomedical engineering is located, all my professional life as a faculty member. So a real pleasure. You know, I'm really proud of the university's historical strengths in neuroscience and engineering and medical devices, and the additional capacity that we've developed in partnership with the state through the MnDrive program, which was the genesis of much of what is happening within neuromodulation. And that kind of work is, you know, it's really only possible at a leading American research university. We do the basic research. That's the foundation for treatments and cures. Our researchers work across very different disciplines for translational work, and we partner with the private sector to bring innovations to patients. I think, you know, if there is any silver lining to the pandemic, and there aren't many, and it's not that silver, but maybe one of the things that was good, at least from the perspective of universities like the University of Minnesota, is the degree to which it highlighted just how critical the contributions of big R1 research intensive institutions are to the public good. What we accomplished in not just the biomedical space per se, but in, you know, engineering solutions to airflow, to protection and the like, to you know, 3D printing of various interventions, to you know, more social science aspects of the pandemic. We've just made contributions across the spectrum. And I certainly hope that the state legislature, which is now thinking about our budget for the next 2 years, was paying attention, and we certainly tried to highlight that to them. As an institution, we've cracked a $1 billion per year spending in our research expenditures, which again reflects just the broad impact we have within the state of Minnesota in particular, and the economic development that accrues from those investments. So as I know you've seen throughout this event, the University of Minnesota is at the forefront of training, research, and translation of a really broad range of neuromodulation work. So that includes optogenetics, spinal cord stimulation, deep brain stimulation, potential to treat pain, movement disorders, paralysis, addiction, a truly impressive list. When Minnesota invested in the MnDrive program, the state that is, they wanted to be strategic and build on existing strengths and do so in partnership with industry. And I know in this symposium where so many different aspects of neuromodulation have been discussed, I think you'll agree that this was money well spent, and our thanks go to the state of Minnesota for their ongoing partnership. Of course, there are others who need to be thanked as well, and especially patients who've participated in the symposium's Voice of the Patient sessions in particular, as well as obviously that broader population sharing their experiences with neuromodulation. Certainly thanks as well to all the students who participated in the symposium's poster session. I'm sorry that I had to miss that. As Vice President for Research, I will say that, you know, one of the greatest pleasures is being able to wander around poster sessions, particularly in fields about which you know absolutely nothing, because it's a great educational experience. You get to absorb a whole lot of new knowledge in a short period of time. Such sessions are really inspirational, I think, and help make the point to our advocates and to lawmakers and policymakers that at the University of Minnesota, research is teaching. You might see that over my head here. They're inseparable parts of our mission. So the teaching mission isn't something that's bolted onto research or vice versa. Research adds to our students' education. It's a unique facet. They're a fundamental component of our research work. In fact, most of our researchers are students. And so it's through the student experience that we can bring in researchers, entrepreneurs, designers, clinicians from more diverse backgrounds into this field and open up the possibilities where they may not have known of them or where they previously didn't seem possible. Indeed, you know, while on the topic of expanding opportunities and recognizing the importance of equity and inclusion, let me commend the organizers for choosing to make Picture a Scientist a part of the program. It turns out I'm privileged to know Professor Rachel Burks, as we both serve as, quote, experts, unquote, for the American Chemical Society when they field media inquiries. And, you know, Rachel actually does really interesting things like poisoning and forensic science. and I'm kind of stuck with boring things like thermodynamics. But I've curbed my jealousy through appreciating everything I've learned from her about great science communication and her, just infectious enthusiasm for research and teaching. And I'm so glad to see her message and those of her colleagues in the film multiplied in venues like this. As I came in near the tail end of the panel discussion, I did hear the GEM Fellowship mentioned as a terrifically useful way to bring in historically underrepresented populations into STEM fields. I'll just mention that when I was Associate Dean in the College of Science and Engineering, I certainly helped facilitate some GEM scholars who came to the university for their graduate studies. So we are familiar with that program and certainly eager to continue working with it, I think, although I'm not in the college anymore. I also want to take some time to thank our corporate sponsors for their turnout today, their financial support of the symposium, which is taking place under rather different circumstances than the 7 symposia that preceded it, but at least it's going on, and that's 90% of the battle. For our researchers, for our colleges, for our university as a whole, corporate engagement is a signal priority. It's one articulated by President Gable and her full administration. And as she has said, we need to resist the temptation in the face of a worldwide pandemic to recede or retract from industry connections. While basic research funded by agencies like NIH is always going to be bread and butter and a key indicator of how we're advancing the field, we've just got to continue to engage with the companies that can commercialize and bring inventions into the hands of doctors and allow them to engage with patients. As an institution, actually, we look forward to continued engagement with our corporate partners. And in fact, you can find a new way in to the university via a new website that we've created to try to foster those connections and build them. Our new industry engagement portal is at IE, industry engagement, .umn.edu, so a very short URL suitable for memorization. That website actually presages some other improvements that we'll be rolling out this spring. We'll be doing a soft launch for a new corporate engagement center that will offer partner companies a holistic way to engage with the university so they can meet their needs for sponsored research and licensing, which will help generate new treatments for difficult medical challenges, but at the same time address their needs for workforce, recruiting, sponsorship opportunities, philanthropic giving, really trying to package every way in which business and industry engages with the university so that we appreciate their holistic needs and can offer our holistic capabilities. So thank you really for the chance to help close out the symposium today. I terrifically appreciate all the good work done by all the participants, and my best wishes to all of you in the coming year and until the next symposium. So thank you, Tay.
Thank you. That was fantastic. I really appreciate your coming, and this is your last time coming because we're losing you. So they want to thank you for your service and everything you've done for us in biomedical engineering and for the Neuromod conference and MinDrive, and we'll miss you, and we wish you the best of luck on your new endeavors.
Thank you for those kind words. I really appreciate it.
So I just want to acknowledge finally also the vendors by name. So we have our sponsors. The platinum sponsors were Surtech, Abbott, Medtronic, Boston Scientific. Our gold ones were Biotechnic, Saluda, Inspire, and our maroon levels were Livanova, Heraeus, and Memstem. And they're the ones who really made this conference possible, and I really thank you guys for your continued support, especially in this year where it's been done sort of in an odd format, but I think it's worked and we had good attendance, and the content was fantastic. And I also want to really personally thank and acknowledge Ellie Gardner, Carrie Molidar, and Greg Molnar, who really put all the effort into making this program run. Without them, this could not have happened. And Greg did all of the fundraising for it. Ellie and Carrie, you probably all received lots of emails. And Gary as well. Gary's the one who's been helping out with all the AV. So thank you guys. And without further ado, let me announce the final posters awards. So thanks everybody who participated in the poster session. And let me get...
You need a drum roll? Do you want me to...
Yeah, okay, let me get to sharing screen too. Okay, you guys can see my screen. Okay, so we have each room, we sort of tried to keep it in loose categories. So it's not perfect matches, but we tried to cover it. And then we were also, our platinum sponsors had an award named after them, which I did my best to sort of match them up with the interest of their. Unfortunately, Medtronic said that they could not support an award. And so even though they are deserving of having one named after them for, I guess, reasons unbeknownst to me. I don't know why they couldn't. So please let me know if there is a reason, if we can fix that in the future. So let me start with room number 1 on addiction. And Dr. Anders Asp from Mayo is our first award winner for the Surtech Award. And all of the awards are $500. So don't spend it all in one place. And add it to your stimulus check too. So the second one is for the basic neuroscience room, and Sadra Wilson is the winner for that room. And so all of these people, please let us know your email address. We have your email address, but we'll be getting your addresses and sending you either checks or can deposit directly. And then from Hubert's lab in the epilepsy and pain room, I'm not sure she did epilepsy or pain, but she was in that room. So sorry for but Claire Kaiser is the winner, and Claire did a fantastic job. And then the beginning of we will call this the Matt Johnson block. This is the poster award winner for the Parkinson's disease room A. There's 2 rooms of Parkinson's disease, and Alex Doyle, Matt Johnson's grad student, is the winner of that. And the second winner for the second room, thank goodness we had 2 rooms. Mojgan Gaftari is also from Matt Johnson's and is a winner for that room. And the final winner is Zishi Zhao for the spinal cord injury room, who's postdoc with me. And I had no participation in the voting. So this is independent, and Zishi, congratulations. So congratulations to all of our poster winners. Thank you to all the judges who came. We had 21 judges, and the rooms were packed. We had 17, 18 people per room. And for students, being able to present in front of 17 people, I think is quite good, particularly in COVID times. So thanks everybody. Thanks for a wonderful conference. Thanks for attending. Next year, we're gonna have Ben Hayden and Alec Widge are gonna be the chairs, and they'll do the scientific session. And we looked forward to seeing you all again next year. So thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
And no, wait, Tay. We have to thank you because it's not easy to do this, meeting virtually, and it's a lot of stress to try to figure out how to get people to be interactive. It's not the same as being in person, and you've done an amazing job, Tay. So you do deserve a lot of thank you from the community, because this is something special for Minnesota and for internationally to keep it going. So really, Tay, awesome job. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Then you can say goodbye now.
Thank you. Thanks so much, you guys. It's been a great time, and the attendance was great. I'm really quite pleased with how it all went. And thank you guys for chairing the sessions. And I'm looking forward to life turning to normal Monday. Thanks, everybody.